It's been an emotional roller coaster this week for fans of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. On Thursday, Brooklyn Nine-Nine was among several casualties from the Fox lineup in a TV bloodbath that included The Exorcist, Lucifer, The Last Man on Earth, The Mick, and New Girl, all to make room in the schedule for Thursday Night Football. Fans of the Nine-Nine refused to let the show go quietly, though, throwing a GIF-fueled riot over social media that included some high-profile outrage from fans like Mark Hamill and Guillermo del Toro. Behind the scenes, showrunners shopped around for a new home, but things were looking grim as reports came in of Hulu and Netflix both passing on the comedy. Then, late Friday, NBC swooped in to save the day, announcing that they would pick up the show for its 6th season, and there was much rejoicing.
Hot damn!
Moving to NBC is a natural fit for the show since it's produced by their sister studio, Universal Television. Of course, while this might simply mean a stay of execution, the show will at least have a dozen more episodes to go out with a bang. In other TV news, Netflix has released the first official trailer for the 2nd season of Luke Cage. It looks like Luke's in a bit of a pickle when the Bushmaster comes to town and lays him out. Fortunately, Misty Knight has gotten some cybernetics to lend a hand. Bridging the gap between movies and video games, Warner Bros. Announced this week that Greg Russo, screenwriter for the upcoming Mortal Kombat and Resident Evil reboot movies, has been tapped to develop additional live-action video game adaptations for Machinima, the first of which will be an adaptation of the first-person horror shooter franchise, F.E.A.R. Who is Greg Russo, you ask? That's a darn good question, because as far as IMDb tells me, his career consists of writing credits for 3 movies that have yet to be made, 2 of which are the previously mentioned Mortal Kombat and Resident Evil movies. With F.E.A.R. also on his plate, my best guess is that he was actually grown in a lab to make live-action video game adaptations. Nothing else makes sense. And while video games are getting turned into movies, movies are crossing over into video games. This week, Epic Games announced a surprise team-up with Marvel Studios for a limited-time Fortnite Battle Royale mode where 100 players fight over the Infinity Gauntlet. Whoever gets a hold of the magical oven mitt will spend the remainder of the game playing as Thanos, with special abilities and limitations at their disposal. In other gaming news, Kickstarters may still have a lengthy wait for Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, but Koji Igarashi has a retro throwback title to tide people over until release. Funded as a stretch goal from the original Kickstarter campaign, Bloodstained Curse of the Moon is an 8-bit styled prequel game in the vein of Castlevania 3. The game features 4 playable characters that can be swapped in on the fly while you explore the NES-themed levels. Backers should be getting their codes for the game soon, while it'll be available for the rest of us to buy and download on May 24th. And speaking of downloadable retro games, Nintendo finally announced a few more details about their mysterious paid online service. Along with enabling online play for Splatoon, ARMS, Mario Kart, and more, the Nintendo Switch Online service will also give subscribers access to a library of NES titles, which themselves have been modified for online co-op. The service will launch with 20 titles and promises that new games will be regularly added. Other features to the service will include cloud backup for your game saves and access to special offers, but you will still need to use your smartphone for voice chat. Kicking it over to new releases, are you ready to see a CG'd up Josh Brolin lay waste to a bunch of superpowered comic book characters? Then get ready for Deadpool 2. After surviving a near-fatal bovine attack, Ryan Reynolds plays a disfigured cafeteria chef struggling to fulfill his dream of becoming Mayberry's hottest bartender while learning to cope with his lost sense of taste. Searching to regain his spice for life along with the flux capacitor, Reynolds must battle ninjas, the Yakuza, and a pack of sexually aggressive canines as he journeys the world to discover the importance of friends, family, and flavor, finding a new taste for adventure and earning the coveted coffee mug title of World's Best Lover. Yes, that is the actual official description of the movie's storyline. Frankly, the marketing alone for this movie has earned it your ticket sale. At this point, the movie itself is just the icing on the cake. Over in books, the first volume of Ruby, the official manga anthology, comes out this week, collecting a series of short stories to fill in the gaps between the early days of the show. And in video games, this week on PC we have Stonewall Penitentiary, a spooky adventure game that puts you in a graphic novel-styled murder mystery, like playing a comic book version of Saw. Wizard of Legend is a great-looking dungeon crawler that has you mixing and matching magic for different spell combos. With a ton of different options, it looks like you can match the game to your playstyle. And Omen Sight, from the developers of Stories, is a spiritual sequel that has you repeating the end of the world over and over until you can figure out how to prevent the apocalypse. Oddly enough, it's not the only Groundhog Day themed game this week. Future Proof obviously doesn't have the same production values, but the concept is similar as you explore 12 minutes of the world again and again. And our other classic JRPG game this week is Towards the Pantheon. I can't say anything in particular stands out about this one, but it does look like a fair amount of effort was put into it, so that's something. Speaking of effort, The House of Fata Morgana, A Requiem for Innocence, may just be a visual novel, but the art isn't anime or amateurish, which makes it stand out in the genre. Meanwhile, Forgot On An is a puzzle platformer with some nice looking hand-drawn animations. Not the smoothest animation I've ever seen in the game, but it still looks very pretty. And for another thrilling game, Stay is a pixel art adventure game that has you trapped in a house trying to figure out how you got there and how to get out. Then we have the Framed collection, compiling 2 award-winning puzzle games into a single package. In Framed, it looks like you're supposed to put together a spy thriller by rearranging panels of the motion comic until they produce the desired outcome. It's a pretty neat concept. Speaking of neat concepts, Fox and Forest is a cool-looking 16-bit style platformer that mixes typical shooting gameplay with a season-changing mechanic. The solid art style doesn't hurt it either. And finally, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition is making its way to the Switch this week. If you're into Dynasty Warriors gameplay and haven't already invested in the Wii U or 3DS versions of the game, then there's no reason not to pick this one up. Wrapping things up with this week's awesome video, we all know that Fortnite is the current big thing, but be careful how much you play. The guys at the Warp Zone have put together this cautionary video about the dangers of prolonged Fortniting.
Due to Fortnite's immense popularity on mobile and its addictive gameplay loop, more people than ever are spending incredibly large amounts of time on the toilet, inevitably leading to Fortnite butt syndrome. FPS is caused by intense anal pressure on a toilet seat over an extended period of time. The natural malleability of the butt cheeks creates a perfect vacuum seal with the toilet that permanently affixes the victim to it. Tragically, there is no known cure for FPS. At this point, all we can do is try and make the victims comfortable.
That's everything for this week, so on a scale of 10 to 10, how happy are you that Brooklyn Nine-Nine has been renewed? Tell me the title of your sex tape in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe, pass this video around to your friends, and have a great week!